Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Welcome, everybody or everyone to Fresh Fire Bible Church Wednesday night Bible study. We seem to have a few people out today. I do know that we have some that are out of town. And with us starting at 6 o'clock, it is difficult to get here sometimes, especially because of work and everything like that. But and then, yeah. So welcome. Thank you for joining in-house and online. That song, it's good because I'm going to be talking about that. It says, even though you can't see it, you're working. I'm going to be talking about that in this chapter, and that's very, very, very good. Very good. Thanks again for joining. I'm going to do a couple announcements here. This weekend, this Sunday, is going to be my 1-year anniversary service. That's what I'm calling it. Now I'm calling it Qualifying the Called Part 2. My dad will be here. He will be doing Bible study that day. And we'll have our worship service, and we will have our deliverance service at 6 o'clock on Sunday, this Sunday. And the main focus is going to be addiction. We're going to focus on addiction, and there's many types of addictions, not just drugs and alcohol. There's many, many, many types. And we will be going over that on Sunday, and it's going to be good. It's going to be great. There will be miracles that will happen in this house, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And if you can, you absolutely need to be here. You need to be here for that. You need to be here for both services. Both services. Deliverance is important, and the regular Sunday worship service is important. And I'm going to do a live after this, but I want to pack this church. I want to pack it. I want to have every seat filled on this Sunday. So, if you can, you can. Not if you can invite friends, family, and have them join us here in-house this Sunday at 12:30 for a great time in the Lord, and 6 o'clock for our mass deliverance service. And that would be great. Very much looking forward to that. So again, this is Wednesday night Bible study. We are currently in the Acts series. And we are almost done with the Acts series. Tonight we are in Acts chapter 27. And then we have 28 next week, and we're done with Acts. 28 is the last one in Acts. And then we will move on to the book of Revelation. That will be the next series, and that may take a lot longer to do because there may be some chapters that are just going to have to be split in half. Maybe even in a quarter. Just depends on how long it takes me to get through all the information that is in each chapter of it. So, I mean, we're in no hurry. We'll go through it the best we can, as quick as we can, and looking forward to that also. So, again, we're in 27. In case this is new to you, what I will do is I will read the entire chapter in the King James Version. And then I will switch off to the HCSB, and I will go and I will read through that, and I'll summarize through that because it's much easier to read and to understand. Recap of 26, which we talked about last week, is Paul's defense before Agrippa and Berenice. Yeah, I've been saying that wrong the whole time. Festus and Agrippa's response. And we talked about quite a bit. I mean, we talked about religious spirits. We talked about false prophets. And we talked about how this testimony that he was telling the king and Festus and all that, how it involved salvation this time. And it was much different than the other times that he's talked about his conversion in the other books of Acts when he's mentioned that story on the road to Damascus. So we talked a lot about salvation last week. It was very good. Very good. I also did want to mention that this past Sunday was very good, and there was a very heavy spirit in the house. And we talked about lukewarm churches, and I think that's something everybody needs to hear. That is a word for everyone, and if you have not seen that, you can go back and look. It's on all the pages, YouTubes and all that, and you can watch that, and I do suggest that you do watch that. Okay, so the Acts summary. The book of Acts is a continuation of the Gospel of Luke, following Jesus' followers as they are given the power of God's Spirit and tasked with spreading the good news of God's kingdom to the world. This is the beginning and the birth of the New Testament church, and we are the New Testament church. We are a continuation of the book of Acts in real time. Luke wrote the book of Acts, and Acts reveals the conversion of the Apostle Paul. That is a recap of, that's a summary of the book of Acts. There's so much in here. We've gone through so much. I mean, the past 2-3 weeks, we've been basically talking about Paul and him defending himself against the mob, the Jew mob, the haters that are trying to kill him because they're jealous and mad and upset and all this and that. But tonight, we're going to get into a whole different type of story. If you haven't read it yet, it's going to be it's a change, and it's a very interesting chapter. So, yeah, it's different. It's different. But what I was trying to say was, I mean, there's so much that goes on in the book of Acts, and it talks about so much. And that's why I say it is absolutely, that's the church that we have now. The church nowadays, the American church now is a continuation of this. We continue on with what they do because this is the early church, the beginning of the church. That's what is talked about in here. So we got a very good, different story to go through tonight.
Hey, let me grab you a bottle of water before you get started.
I got one, but thank you. Yep.
I didn't see it sitting up there normally.
Yep. Yeah, I got my coffee this time, or for now. All right, so 27 in the King James, and when it was determined. Oh, yeah. Let me say this. All right, there's some words. There's some big words in this chapter, so I'll say that right off the bat. If you know me, I'm not very good at them big, complicated words, but it's all right. I will do my best. I'm going to start at 32 and 26. Then said Agrippa unto Festus, this man might have been set at liberty if had not appealed unto Caesar, which means if he would not have attempted to go on trial in front of Caesar, then they would have let him go a long time ago. That's what that means. That was the end of 26. Now, 27. And when it was determined that we should sail into Italy, they delivered, I can't read Italy, really. They delivered Paul and certain other prisoners unto one named Julius, a centurion of Augustus' band. And entering into a ship, here's one of them, Adramyttium, we launched, meaning to sail by the coasts of Asia. One Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. And the next day we touched at Sidon, and Julius courteously entreated Paul and gave him liberty to go unto his friends to refresh himself. And when we had launched from thence, we sailed under Cyprus because the winds were contrary. And when we had sailed over the sea of Sicily and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. And there the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing into Italy, and he put us therein. And when we had sailed slowly many days, and scarce were come over against Sindus, the wind not suffering us, we sailed under Crete over against Salmon. And hardly passing it, came into a place which is called the Fair Havens, nigh whereunto was the city of Lasea. Now when much time was spent, and when sailing was now dangerous, because the fast was now already past, Paul admonished them, and said unto them, Sirs, I perceive that this voyage will be with hurt and much damage, not only of the landing and ship, but also of our lives. 11. Nevertheless, the centurion believed the master and the owner of the ship more than those things which were spoken by Paul. And because the haven was not commodious to winter in, the more part advised to depart thence also, if by any means they might attain to Finis, and there to winter, which is an haven of Crete, and lieth toward the southwest and northwest. And when the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, losing thence, they sailed close by Crete. But not long after there arose against it a tempestuous wind called Eurolydon. And when the ship was caught and could not bear up into the wind, we let her drive. And running under a certain island, which is called Clauda, we had much work to come by the boat. 17. Which when they had taken up, they used helps, undergirding the ship, and fearing lest they should fall into the quicksand, strake sail, and so were driven. And we being exceedingly tossed with the tempest, the next day we lightened the ship. And the third day we cast out with our own hands the tackling of the ship. And when neither sun nor stars in many days appeared, and no small tempest lay on us, all hope that we should be saved was then taken away. But after long abstinence, Paul stood forth in the midst of them and said, Sirs, ye should have hearkened unto me, and not have loosed from Crete, and to have gained this harm and loss. And now I exhort you to be of good cheer, for there shall be no loss of any man's life among you, but of the ship. For there stood by me this night the angel of God, whose I am and whom I serve. 24. Saying, Fear not, Paul, thou must be brought before Caesar, and lo, God hath given thee all them that sail with thee. Wherefore, sirs, be of good cheer, for I believe God that it shall be even as it was told me. Howbeit we must be cast upon a certain island. But when the 14th night was come, and as we were driven up and down in Adria about midnight, the shipmen deemed that they drew near to some country, and sounded, and found it 20 fathoms. And when they had gone a little further, they sounded again and found it 15 fathoms. Then, fearing lest we should have fallen upon rocks, they cast 4 anchors out of the stern, and wished for the day. And as for the shipmen were about to flee out of the ship, when they had let down the boat unto the sea, under color as though they would have cast anchors out of the foreship, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, Except these abide in the ship, you cannot be saved. Then the soldiers cut off the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. And while the day was coming on, Paul besought them all to take meat, saying, This day is the 14th day that ye have tarried and continued fasting, having taken nothing. Wherefore I pray you to take some meat, for this is for your health, for there shall not any hair fall from the head of any of you. 35. And when he had thus spoken, he took bread and gave thanks to God in presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then were they all of good cheer, and they also took some meat. And we were all in the ship 260 souls. And when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and cast out the wheat into the sea. And it was when it was day, they knew not the land, but they discovered a certain creek with a shore, into which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves into the sea, and loosed the rudder bands, and hoisted up the mainsail to the wind, and made toward shore. And following into a place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground, and the forepart stuck fast, and remained unmovable, but the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. But the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purpose, and commanded that they which could swim should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land, and the rest, some on boards and some on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped all safe to land. That was brutal in the beginning. The first half of that, man, that was some words. So as you can see, that's a bit different than what we've been talking about, right? We've been talking about, well, he's been going in front of the governor and the councils and the kings and the high priests and all that, but now he's on a ship, and they're sailing, and there's storms, and there's bad winds and storms and everything else. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and the wind broke it apart, broke the ship apart.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a lot different. So credit to Be Like Christ for this summary. The hashtag title of this is Shipwreck. When did this happen? Paul's journey to Rome took place around 59 AD after he spent 2 years in Caesarea. Characters: Paul, Saul, an apostle who was being sent to Rome to stand trial before Caesar; Julius, the Roman centurion responsible for Paul's transport to Rome; and 276, the number of people on board Paul's boat when it left Fair Havens. Where Paul was in prison for 2 years in Caesarea, on his way to Rome to stand trial, he passed through Sidon, Myra, Cnidus, Fair Havens, and was shipwrecked in Malta. And Paul was put on a ship destined for Rome. This is going to start out in 27. When it was decided that we were to sail to Italy, they handed over Paul and some other prisoners to a centurion named Julius of the imperial regiment. So when we had boarded a ship of, let me just go ahead and say now, I'm not saying them words again. So I'll just kind of skip over that. So when we boarded the ship, we put to sea, intending to sail to ports along the coast of Asia. Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, was with us. The next day we put in at Sidon, and Julius treated Paul kindly and allowed him to go to his friends to receive their care. So, I mean, that was nice of him. Allowed his friends to come be with him. He could talk with them, sit with them, come to his care, anything that he needed. When we had put out to sea from there, we sailed along the northern coast of Cyprus because the winds were against us. After sailing through the open sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we reached Myra in Lycia. There the centurion found an Alexandrian ship sailing for Italy and put us on board. So they swapped. They changed ships right there. Put us on board. Sailing slowly for many days, we came with difficulty as far as Cnidus. Since the wind did not allow us to approach it, we sailed along the south side of Crete off Salmon. With yet more difficulty, we sailed along the coast and came to a place called Fair Haven near the city of Lycia. And if you look at the map, that's a very little place. It's a little island is what it is, Fair Havens. And that's where they wanted to stop there. They came to Fair Havens. By now, this is Paul's advice ignored. He's telling them, hey, he's talking to the centurion and the captain of the ship, and this is his advice. By now, much time had passed, and the voyage was already dangerous. Since the fast was already over, Paul gave it his advice and told them, men, I can see that this voyage is headed toward damage and heavy loss, not only of the cargo and the ship, but also of our lives. He's telling them, hey, we need to not do this. This is dangerous. This is not the right time to be sailing to where we need to go. But the centurion paid attention to the captain and the owner of the ship rather than what Paul said. He said, David, I don't care what you got to say. I'm listening to the captain over here. Since the harbor was unsuitable to winter in, the majority decided to set sail from there, hoping somewhere to reach Phoenix, a harbor on Crete open to the southwest and northwest, and to winter there. I think there's a note on that. Yep. So this will be a note for 7 through 9. The ship was having difficulty along its voyage because the journey was being undertaken at the end of the sailing season, and the winds were already unpredictable. The sailing season was deemed to be dangerous from mid-September to mid-November, and the waterways closed for travel from them until February, a period of about 3 months. It appeared that Paul's journey was taking place in roughly mid-October. Fair Havens, despite the name, was not a suitable place to stay the winter since the harbor was exposed to the open sea. So you can imagine if you were to, let's say, go to the lake at Raccoon Lake and hop on a pontoon boat and go for a drive today, right? I mean, it would be horrible. It'd be horrible. A couple days ago, it was 70. That'd not bad, but if you try and go today, yeah.
So September to November, that's hurricane season. So this was possibly a hurricane.
Yeah, very well could have been. Mm-hmm. But Paul said, "Hey, man, this is not safe. We should not do this." But of course, Centurion said, "No, we have to. We're going to." So, storm-tossed ship. When a gentle south wind sprang up, they thought they had achieved their purpose. They weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. But not long afterward, a fierce wind called the northeaster rushed down from the island. So that would pretty much confirm that. A fierce wind, right? I mean, that's a hurricane, right? Fierce wind called the northeastern rushed down from the island. Since the ship was caught and was unable to head into the wind, we gave way to it and were driven along. So they didn't fight it. They just said, okay, we're just going to let it push us wherever it takes us, right? They let the wind drive them, is what that means. After running under the shelter of a little island called Cauda, we were barely able to get control of the skiff. Now, these are a lot of sailing terms, and I don't know anything about sailing. I don't really know nothing about boats either. So, control of the skiff. After hoisting it up, they used ropes and tackle. I do know what ropes are. And girded the ship. Then, fearing they would run aground on the Cyprus, they lowered the drift anchor And in this way, they were driven along. Because we were being severely battered by the storm, they began to jettison the cargo the next day. On the third day, they threw the ship's gear overboard with their own hands. They said, we need to lighten up the ship a little bit. The ship's too heavy. They were scared that the hurricane, the major wind, would do a lot of damage. So they thought, okay, well, we need to lighten up the ship. And then for many days, neither sun nor stars appeared. Now, can you imagine that for a minute? You're on a boat. There's hurricanes basically going on, and you're sitting there swooshing and back and forth, and water's coming up, waves is coming up, splashing all over the place, and you have no sun or any stars. No sun, no stars for a couple days. I can imagine that would be a very, very hard, rough couple days. And the severe storm kept raging. Finally, all hope that we would be saved was disappearing. Since many were going without food, Paul stood up among them and said, you men should have followed my advice not to sail from Crete and sustain this damage and loss. He said, hey, I told you guys. I told you this was coming. I said you shouldn't do it, and you chose to do it. And now here we are. Told you not to. Now I urge you to take courage, because there will be no loss at any of your lives, but only of the ship. For this night an angel of the God I belong to and serve stood by me and said, don't be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. And look, God has graciously given you all those who are sailing with you. Therefore take courage, men, because I believe God that it will be just the way it was told to me. However, we must run aground on a certain island. So here we go again. He had another angel of the Lord visit him and tell him, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And not only is it going to be okay for you, it's going to be okay for everybody that is with you. Everybody that's on this boat will be all right. Nobody's going to get killed. The only thing that's going to get killed is the boat, is the ship. That's the thing that's going to get tore up. But, many times we talked about angel of the Lord appeared to Peter while he was in jail, appeared to Paul, appeared to many, many people. And I find it amazing that's talked about so much here, but it even happens to this day. All right, angels appear. They do. Now, sometimes you can't see them. You can't. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you know that they're talking to you, right? A lot of people will say that I've never seen an angel. Well, I have seen an angel. I do believe 100%, without a doubt, that the picture of my house fire, I believe that's an angel in front of it walking. 100% believe it. It is not photoshopped. That is not a fake picture whatsoever. It is that picture actually, if I remember right, because after we ran out of the house and ran up the street a little bit, I took a couple pictures, and then that was it. I didn't film it or nothing like that. I was too devastated. But there was the picture that has the angel in it. There was we lived next to a church, and I guess I didn't even know it. I wasn't paying attention, but there was people that pulled into the church and were watching it burn, and they took pictures too. Now, whoever that was, I think it may have been a neighbor on the other side of the church, but whoever was sitting in the driveway of the church, they're the ones that took that picture. They're the ones that took the picture that has the angel in it. And I saved it. It was shared and multiple places. I mean, it was in the papers and all that. But anyway, that's not my original picture. I did not doctor it in any way. It's basically just blown up so you can see it, because I mean it was far from the house, the church driveway from the actual burning house. But so all I did was blow it up. But yeah, that's an angel in that picture. And just like here, you know, the angel says, "Hey, you guys are going to be okay. You're going to get off this boat, and you're all going to be all right." That angel got us out of that house. Now, I didn't see the angel during the time that we was running out of the house or during the time of the fire, but I know that that angel was there, if not many angels. I believe that 100%. And that's just amazing that it still works. I mean, there angels literally here in this house, even. You know, I believe that. We can't necessarily see them, but I do know that they're here. They're especially here when the deliverance is going on, because there's some demons that are very stubborn and will not come out based on us trying to cast them out. Sometimes them angels have to step in, and they gotta get them demons out. I believe that. I believe there's angels all around us. There's guardian angels, and I'm very thankful for that. It's absolutely amazing to me. Yeah, take courage, men. It's going to be okay. I can imagine some of them was probably like, "Oh, what's this guy talking about?" But some of them probably felt really, really good after he said that. Because think about it, the ship's going like this and like this. They're probably all thinking they're going to die. You know, think about a Titanic. You know, what happened there? What happened with the Titanic? Broke in half and went down, sunk. A lot of people died. A couple of them made it. But he's saying, you guys are going to be all right. Don't worry. We got to run around on a certain island. When the 14th night came, we were drifting in the Adriatic Sea, and in the middle of the night, the sailors thought they were approaching land. They took a sounding and found it to be 120 feet deep. When they had sailed a little further and sounded again, they found it to be 90 feet deep. Then, fearing we might run around in some rocky place, they dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight to come. Some sailors tried to escape from the ship. They had let down the skiff into the sea, pretending that they were going to put out anchors from the bow. Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, "Unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved." Then the soldiers cut the ropes holding the skiff and let it drop away. Unless these men stay in the ship, you cannot be saved. He's warning them there. He said, "Hey, I was told we're all going to be okay, but we all got to stay in here, right? The Lord will take care of us, but we got to do what he said to do, and that is stay in this ship." When it was about daylight, Paul urged them all to take food, saying, "Today is the 14th day that you have been waiting and going without food, having eaten nothing." Can you imagine going 14 days? So if it ain't bad enough that you're on this ship, you got 2 or 3 days where you ain't even got light or stars or sun or anything like that. You just got waves and crashing in a boat where you think you're going to die. And I can only imagine 3 days of that probably felt like 3 months. I can only imagine that. So you got that going on. You got the fear of you're thinking that you're going to die, and you haven't eaten for 14 days. That's rough right there. That's rough. I didn't eat lunch, and I'm about to die. I fasted lunch, and I'm 14 days now. Think about that. 14. Therefore, I urge you to take some food, for this has to do with your survival. Since none of you will lose a hair from your head." After he said these things and had taken some bread, he gave thanks to God in the presence of all of them. And when he broke it, he began to eat. They all became encouraged and took food themselves. In all, there were 276 of us on the ship. When they had eaten enough, they began to lighten the ship by throwing the grain overboard into the sea. So once again, they're trying to lighten the ship up. They ate finally. I'm sure that made them feel so much better. Now, the shipwreck. When daylight came, they did not recognize the land, but sighted a bay with a beach. They planned to run the ship ashore if they could. After casting off the anchors, they left them in the sea, and at the same time loosening the ropes that held the rudders. Then they hoisted the foresail to the wind and headed for the beach. But they struck a sandbar and ran the ship aground. The bow jammed fast and remained immovable, while the stern began to break up by the pounding of the waves. Can you imagine? So Luke wrote this, right? How is he so knowledgeable about boats, sailboats? Look at these words that he's using. Sterns and bows and
I think it's pronounced bow.
bow. Yeah, probably. I had somebody correct me because I do a lot of shorts on YouTube. So I was reading a verse and somebody corrected me. Come on, I
Yeah,
plainly say
right.
that I'm no scholar, but I had somebody say it's not pronounced yeah, it's pronounced yay. I said yeah, Y-E-A. I mean, what?
Two different words. Yay and yeah are two different words.
Yeah, or yay. You know, it looked like yeah, so I read yeah, but I guess it's supposed to be yay. But yeah, yay. But yeah, very knowledgeable. That's really cool. That just goes to show you how educated that they were. You know, the disciples, especially Paul. Yeah, bow. I said bow, didn't I? The bow. Was it bow? Is that right?
It's bow.
Bow. Okay.
The bow of the boat.
Bow. Well, bow. That's the same word though. B-O-W.
Well, read and red's the same too. It's spelled the same.
Read and read. That's true. Okay. Again, a break up by the pounding of the waves. The soldiers' plan was to kill the prisoners so that no one could swim away and escape, but the centurion kept them from carrying out their plan because he wanted to save Paul. So he ordered those who could swim to jump overboard first and get to land. The rest were to follow, some on planks and some on the debris from the ship. In this way, everyone safely reached the shore. That's interesting. That just, me and Sam joke about this all the time. Some on planks and some on debris from the ship. We always talk about Titanic at the end of the movie where Rose is on the door. That's exactly the same thing. People on debris and parts of the ship. But there was clearly plenty of room on that door for Jack to come up. Am I wrong? Tell me in the chat, was there room on the door for Jack? And she says, "I'll never let go, Jack. I'll never." And then she lets go of him. I'm like, really? Plenty of room on the door. Come on, Rose. Come on. And this, everyone safely reached the shore. Everyone, 276 people safely reached the shore. Some of them swam, some of them jumped over and swam to the shore. Some of them floated on debris and parts of the boat, maybe a door even. And they all safely made it. The ship didn't make it. ship was tore apart, but they made it just like the angel of the Lord said they would. And that is amazing right there. So a different story. We had a bunch going on. We had a shipwreck. We had some storms. We had another angel of the Lord. It's amazing. And that's different than the past couple chapters that we've been talking about for sure. But that is 27. A couple principles here. And that's where I said, even though you can't see it, he's working. There isn't a place where God isn't. God is always with us. He's always working. It's one of the principles. He's always there. Even at our worst time when you possibly even think that he is not there, he absolutely is. I know sometimes it's hard to see that. It absolutely is. I know that. I get that. But he is. He's always working. Always, always, always working. And a lot of times you'll come to see and find out what he has done and what he was working on when you couldn't see it while it was happening. God guided Paul's ship to the island using the seemingly random natural forces of the wind and the waves. Guided his ship to the island using the forces in the wind and the waves. A lot of times you will be on that boat, on that ship, and you're sailing, and then all of a sudden the storm comes and you start doing this and waves, and it's pushing you out, and you don't know where it's taking you, and you say, oh, we're going to go out in the middle of the ocean and we're going to die because we're going to sink. But little do you know that God is actually controlling that boat. He's controlling that boat, and he's going to take it over here and over here and over here. But really where he's going in the end is he's taking you over here at this little island or this little beach area, and he's going to put that boat right exactly where he is going to be able. Everybody can get off that boat safely, all 276 of them. At the time, you didn't know that's what was going on, right? You didn't know that. But there is a reason, and he's always working. And there's plans, there's things in place that sometimes we cannot see. You just got to trust and have faith and believe that it is going to work out, and it will. It absolutely will. God's hand was in the wind and waves, and his hand is in the forces that impact our lives as well. Absolutely. And our final principle here, God is always with us through the storms. And I thought that was pretty cool because God is always with us through the storms. And what did we have last night or early this morning? We had a massive storm. And I thought that was weird because I kept hearing about it, and Sam kept sending me screenshots and posts and things like that, tagging me in it, saying possible tornadoes and hail and all that. And I kept looking at the radar, and I'm like, there's nothing there.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it a couple times.
There was nothing there. I wanted to see it because usually if you know a storm's coming, you can go on the radar, you can zoom out, and you can see the big green and red blob moving in the direction coming towards us, right? You could see that. But there was nothing. I kept looking. I'm like, and you can ask her. I even told her, I said, there's nothing on the radar. And I think it was supposed to come at 11:30 roll around. I looked outside. I'm like, there's nothing. It's calm. Okay. Maybe we're not going to get anything. But sure enough, 3:30 rolled around, and my goodness, was it a storm. Woo! There was a storm. I mean, it was bad. I mean, loud and thunder and lightning and wind and rain and all that other stuff. But God is always with us through the storm. God is always with us. And then I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. So if you go, and if you remember, through the flame in Jesus' name, we go back to Isaiah We go to 43, verse 2. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. Now, how you like that? When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. What did we just talk about?
Shipwreck.
We just talked about that. When you go through the waters, I will be with you. And that's exactly what happened. God was with them, everybody on that ship, and they all got through that storm and made it safely onto dry land. Now passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. Always remember that even though you may be going through a storm, God will be with you. Absolutely, he will be with you. The angels will be there to protect you. God will be there to protect you. And he will absolutely take care of you. 100%. Some storms are worse than others. Absolutely. But God is always there. He will always be with you. Absolutely. And that's 27. So 28 is the last one. That will be next week. And in 28, we have Paul entertained by the barbarians. The viper on his hand hurteth him not. That'll be the last chapter on 28. Last chapter is 28. And we will have a little break, and then we will get into Revelation, the first chapter. I think maybe what I'll do is I'll kind of do like a introduction type thing. That may be the first one. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, so very excited, very, very excited. Thank you for joining, and try and be here absolutely on Sunday. Like I said, I want to try and fill this house. I want every seat in here. We even have a few in the back room. I want to bring those out, and I want to see some children in here, and I want to have the whole house full this Sunday. So bring people, bring people. The flyers are out there. Share them. You can, if you can't share it off of somebody's certain page or in a certain group, then take and hit the little 3 dots and save the picture. That way you can share it. Or screenshot it. Yep. That way you can share it whenever you want to. And let's try and get the house in here. Remember what I talked about. This is not a lukewarm church. It's now time to step up. We need to start preaching the gospel. We need to start making disciples, and we need to get people into the church. So bring your friends, bring your family, invite people. I've invited coworkers, so I'm looking forward to them coming maybe. That would be awesome. And there's a couple more people I'm going to talk to. And just share. The more you share, the more the word gets out. And I'm looking forward to it. I know God is going to do some great things in this house, and I'm very, very much looking forward to it. So if you have a prayer request, go ahead and put it in the chat. Any prayer requests in the house? No? Okay. Thank you, Lord, for your word, and thank you for this day. Thank you for being with us through the storm that we had this morning. You was with us, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that you're with us at all times, even though we can't see that you're working. You are. Absolutely grateful for that, Lord. Please be with everybody that's out right now. If there's any sickness in the house, please be with them. Everybody that's out of town working, and everybody that is working right now, Lord, please be with them. Please be with the people that need to be here on Sunday. We need to go out and make disciples and get people in the house, Lord. I believe it. I know it's going to happen. I know this church is going to grow mightily, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. Absolutely looking forward to it. Please be with everybody and let them have a good rest of the week, and help us all prepare for the wonderful service that we're going to have this weekend. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Have a great night.